Welcome back to part 4 of my abuse story. This is when things finally get good, right? Well, kind of, eventually, at the end of the video. This is going to likely be the longest video of this series, and this is going to probably be the most difficult one to listen to. I am going to talk about suicide, and I'm going to provide you a description of a pretty intense, violent episode. I wasn't going to at first. I was going to gloss over it, and I remembered that this series isn't about me. It's about letting others know that people have had similar experiences, and they shouldn't be afraid to share it. They shouldn't be ashamed of it. So I'm going to tell you guys all about it. Well, the story of me leaving this relationship is really like a third time's the charm type of a story. The first time that I left him, at first I wasn't even going to tell you guys about this because it was obviously unsuccessful, but it's important that I explain, the whole process of everything, and especially the mistakes I made, because I'm sure other people have tried to leave before and then they get back together with their abusive partner and they're really hard on themselves and they feel like they're an idiot and they're dumb, and it happens. It happens. It's just kind of part of the whole thing, So the first time that we separated was about a year and a half to 2 years after we had first met and started dating. And I find out that he has a girlfriend. Yeah, he has a girlfriend. He had been cheating on me, obviously. Remember, we kind of found out about that in the last video. But he'd always said it was just physical, it was just sex. He's just such a sexual being. He needs, multiple partners. Obviously, it wasn't something I liked, but if I attempted to bring it up, well, it didn't go so well for me. So it was just kind of a unfortunate characteristic of our marriage. But one day, I find out that he's really having a relationship with this other girl. One, I am devastated. I am so upset about it. Plus, I talked to her, and this girl is like, I'm not going to say anything mean, but she's very much into him. She is very in love with him. Very in love with him. So I'm really upset about it, but at the same time, I'm like, sweet. I finally have an excuse to leave. He can't really be angry at me about it because, he's like really full on cheating on me, both physically and emotionally. And he has this other girl, so, he really can't be mad. He can just go to her. So I actually kicked him out of my apartment. Like, he was gone. But when I thought about it, I couldn't go through with it. And I would say it's for both selfish and unselfish reasons, although you may say that they are entirely selfish. Hey, could be. I was still young. I was only 22 years old at the time. But this is the thought process behind why I wasn't able to leave him at this point. When I thought about it, he had this other girl. He was just going to go and move in with her, take her money, mooch off of her. He wasn't going to care that our marriage was ruined. He wasn't going to care at all. And I'm here, I'm hurt, I'm devastated, I'm heartbroken. Plus, I just spent like a year and a half being tortured by this dude. I have no idea how much worse it's going to get in the future, but, perspective's a bitch. So I'm just like angry. I'm like, this isn't fair. Like, he needs to care. He needs to hurt like I hurt. Like, that's just not right. I want him to be devastated as well. And then on the other side of the coin, because he wouldn't care, he's not going to learn anything. You know, like, I had brought up to him that he was abusive, and he would just dismiss it. He would ignore it. He'd say that, you know, him hitting me, like, that didn't happen. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? You're making things up. And he just never acknowledged it. And he was already being abusive to her. Yeah, I found, some, like, an email or text message exchange. Yeah, I got to that point where I was going through stuff, okay. Not a proud moment. I was, anyway. And he accused her of cheating on him with some other dude. And by the way, she, at this point, already knew that he was married. He had a wife. But, yeah. So even though this girl wasn't really my favorite girl, the experiences I had, I wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy. He's just going to go and he's going to treat her the same way that he's treated me. And even if she, realizes it and leaves him, which honestly she probably wouldn't have for a while because she really liked him. And I know you guys are probably like, was his dick that good? It wasn't. I don't know. Abusers are charismatic. I don't even know. So I just it wasn't right. Like I couldn't do it. He needed to learn that he was abusive and he had to change. Like he had to learn a lesson. I had already been in the relationship for this long and I was just like, it's on me. Like I need to make things right. So I contacted him. I was like, hey, let's get back together. And I remember at the time thinking that it was going to be a long time before I left him because I didn't take that opportunity. But I knew that when I left, he would be devastated. And that was all true. So we continue our relationship. Things just continue on. They get worse. He gets me into being a webcam model. Like really, that was like the nail on the coffin for isolation. Because when I became a webcam model, we still lived in the same area where I went to college. And he would tell me that I couldn't go out and, do things because like old classmates or friends, they'd probably find out that I was a cam model or maybe like coworkers, and they would judge me and they would be mean and they would call me a whore and a slut. And he was like, you don't want that. Like you don't want people to be mean to you. So after I became a webcam model for about a year and a half, I did not interact with anyone really other than him, my abuser. Maybe going, to the grocery store and exchanging pleasantries with the cashier. That was the most. Obviously, I interacted with people when I was on camera, but that's just not the same. And remember, I started out on Streamate, and that was just like a wham bam, thank you ma'am type of a site, and I was miserable. But we came up with the idea to move to a new state, and suddenly I was so hopeful because we would go to a new area where no one would really know me, and I would be able to leave my house again. I could interact with other human beings. We could have friends. I was so excited. So we moved down there. Like his brother lived in the same area, so it was kind of like built in, like we already knew people. Like the first weekend we were there, we went and hung out with a bunch of people and it was incredible. And I remember the next week I told him, I was like, hey, you should contact so-and-so so we can hang out. And he was like, you know, I'm gonna get a job here, and if anybody recognized you or found out that you're a webcam model, it would be really bad for me. So you probably shouldn't go out that much. I was devastated. All hope was gone. I couldn't continue to live being locked up in my apartment on a regular basis. My only interaction with other people was purely sexual, quite honestly. And then the human being that I talked to in real life would yell at me for breathing regularly. So I was so depressed. And I've talked about being suicidal before in another video, but that was more just me being unhappy and knowing that I needed to get out of the situation. But at this point, I legitimately wanted to kill myself. I couldn't do it. I couldn't continue living that way. It was inhuman. And so one night, I tell him, hey, can I talk to you about something? He's like, sure, whatever. And I tell him, you know, it's just, I can't do this anymore. I'm so miserable. This is not what I expected when we moved. This really isn't what I signed up for. Like, I, could maybe continue working for a little bit to help pay off our debt, but after that, I really feel like I would kill myself. Like, I can't continue living this way. And he looks at me and he hits me in the face. He said, what the fuck did you just say? And he hits me in the face again. He said, you want to kill yourself? And he hits me in the face again. What would people say if they find out my first wife committed suicide? He tries to hit me again. Get up, because I am not trying to be hit in the face again. And I try to get away from him. But we live in a small apartment and he pursues me. And I'm trying to get away from him, and he grabs a knife. And this is the first time that he has ever brandished a weapon at me. And I am like, shit. And he just keeps following me, saying, I will give you a reason to kill yourself. You want to kill yourself? I will give you a fucking reason to kill yourself. And he has this knife. And I look at the front door of the apartment and I'm like, I need to get out of here. So I go and try to leave, and he sees me and he runs in front of the door and he barricades the way and he holds out the knife. He says, where the fuck do you think you're going? I've always been pretty calm in crisis situations. So I'm like, I just want to leave. I just want to walk outside. I'm sorry for saying I wanted to kill myself. I didn't mean it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to tell anyone. I just need to leave. He's like, where the fuck are you going? I said, I am just going to go stand in the parking lot for a little bit while we calm down. That's all I'm going to do. I just want to go stand in the parking lot. He says, if you leave, I'm going to stab myself. And then I'm going to call the police and say you attacked me so you can be arrested. And you're a cam model. What do you think they're going to do with a fucking whore like you? And I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know what to do. If you're ever in a very tense, dangerous situation, you have your fight or flight response. I can't fight. I learned quite a while ago that fighting back wouldn't work out because he's bigger and stronger than me. Plus, at this moment, he has a knife and just increase the danger, and I'm not allowed to flee the situation, so I don't know what to do, and my brain just shuts down, and I go and stand in the corner furthest away from him, and I just stand there in the corner. But he doesn't like me standing in the corner, and he yells at me, so I go and sit down on the sofa and just kind of recoil and try not to breathe too loudly until he calms down. Needless to say, that was a bad moment. And it's tough to kind of function after something like that because your brain is just in survival mode. So it's really hard for me to process what happened because anytime he's around, I'm afraid to breathe and I just keep watching where his hands are. But even he knew that was a little much. And after that moment, he stops becoming physically violent. And so after a few months, I'm finally able to relax and process things again. And I realize I need to leave because I'm going to die. Either I'm going to end up killing myself or he's going to murder me in a fit of rage. So I need to go. This knife incident happened in the fall of 2014. So by February 2015, I kind of get to that point where I'm like, it's go time. I need to get out of here. So I start putting a plan in motion. I research another apartment I can go to. I look up other bank accounts. I look up a local women's shelter. I touch base with them, make sure that, they're possibly a place that I can go to if I need it. And I was a webcam model at the time. So I'm paid bi-weekly, the 1st and the 15th. So about mid-February, I tell my fans, my cam community, I'm like, hey, in March, I want to work really hard. I just, I'm feeling good. I want to hit it hard. I want to go for rank or see if I can just do really well. Are you guys down? And they're like, yeah, we're down. I don't want to actually tell them what's going on because I'm afraid that he's going to find out somehow. I tell him that I'm just feeling so inspired. My birthday's in April. I just want March to be a really good month. I want to make a lot of money. I'm feeling good. He's like, whatever, you do you. So, that's the plan. In the beginning of March, I'm going to try to make as much money as possible. And when I get paid, probably around the 17th or the 18th, I'm going to go. I'm going to withdraw that money and I am going to GTFO. Now, a few weeks before D-Day, I kind of start putting things in motion so he's not so suspicious when D-Day comes. So he worked at a bar and I asked him one day if I can drop him off at work so I can use the car to go shopping and then I'll pick him up later. He's a little weird about it, but obviously I pick him up from work, no big deal. He doesn't think anything of it, right? So D-Day comes around. I get paid that day. He has work that night. It's perfect because I need to make sure that I withdraw my money almost as soon as I get paid before he finds something to spend all my money on. So I'm like, hey, honey, can I take the car? I'll drop you off at work. I want to go to this that nice grocery store and get some good stuff and make a yummy dinner. How does that sound? He's like, whatever, I don't care. So drop him off, turn the corner, floor it. I drive frantically as fast as I can to go to my bank. I withdraw my money. I leave him $1,000. I only have $4,000 to start over my life, but hey, that's perfectly fine for me. I get back in my car, I drive down the block, go to the next bank. I researched in advance, and I knew that this branch could print me a brand new debit card right then and there. So I open a new account, but I am freaking out because I know the moment that I withdraw that money, if he, for whatever reason, decides to take a look at the bank account and sees that the money's gone and becomes suspicious, game over for me. So I'm sitting there at the branch, and the guy is like making small talk, being like real friendly and casual. I'm in a cold sweat, very nervous. I'm like, yo, this is a life or death situation, but I don't really want to tell you that, so I'm just gonna say I'm in a bit of a hurry. He gives me my new card. I have a new bank account. I'm like, sweet, get back in my car, floor it, drive back to my apartment. We lived on like the 3rd or 4th floor. I don't even have time for an elevator. I am running up and down the stairs. I am throwing my stuff in trash bags. I couldn't pack or organize anything beforehand, so I am just frantically trying to grab everything that I know that I need, and I'm running it down, putting it in the back of my car and running back up. My dogs are freaking out. I'm like, don't worry, guys. I got you. We're going to be safe. But I'm nervous. I am scared that he is just going to show up and it's going to be a bad situation. But I get everything packed up. I get my dogs in the car and we get on the road. And when I am driving down the highway, that feeling of elation and being free, indescribable. I did it. So I drive, I go to the shittiest motel ever, but I don't even care. It is a palace to me. It is perfect. That moldy shower, perfect, beautiful. I love it. It is now pretty late at night. It's when I would usually pick him up from work. So I text him, I'm like, hey, it's a crazy night on camera. Would you mind asking someone for a ride home? He's like, sure, whatever, no big deal. Perfect. I had left the door unlocked, left the keys on the counter, along with a letter explaining that I had left him. After I am done talking to him, I call up my phone company, change my phone number, it's done. Next day, I drive further, go to my new apartment, and it is beautiful. And that forever, for the rest of my life, will be my favorite apartment that I have ever had. First of all, it was so much nicer than any apartment that we had ever had together, and I got it by myself, independently. There were so many windows. It was always so bright and sunny in that apartment. I know some of you guys remember it, and you know how much I love the sunshine. It was magical. It was perfect. But for anyone who leaves an abusive or just, a bad situation, maybe abusive parents, whatever it is, you need one or both of these things. You either need a strong support system, or you need to be just rocking it, like well off financially and like very confident to stand alone and independently without anyone else. I didn't have either of those things. I didn't have a support system. I remember prior to me leaving, I talked about it on a forum for other cam models, and a lot of the girls urged me to let my parents know what was going on, and I didn't want to do it. And part of the reason why a lot of people stay in abusive relationships for so long is because they never want to admit they're in an abusive relationship. Like, I knew I was being abused. Remember, I figured it out early on, but once I realized that it was not really okay for me to leave, I just wanted to forget that. Notably, I never kept a diary while I was married. I had one before, and I have one now. I started writing in a diary again when we got divorced, but when we were married, never wrote in a diary. Because what would I write? He hit me today? I couldn't do that. I couldn't write that down on paper. It would make it real. And I couldn't tell my family because it would make it real. And it's not something that anyone really wants to admit to and believe, right? So, didn't have my family as support, and I had moved to an area where I didn't know anyone, so didn't have an in-person support system either. And then I wasn't ready to stand alone and independently. I was a webcam model. And if you guys remember from one of my previous videos where I discussed my job, I never really liked being a webcam model. I didn't. I wasn't super confident in it. It wasn't something that I felt like as a single independent girl that I could go make friends or like go out and date and say, I'm a webcam model. And that's nothing against girls who are full-time webcam models. Like, I have so much respect and appreciation for you. It's just not something that really jived with me. I was never fully comfortable with it. And so, I just wasn't really ready. I wasn't ready to be alone. And about a month and a half later, we get back together. And at first, it's great. He's on his best behavior. I left that dude in the middle of the night with nothing. Total shock to his system. He was devastated. So he was super nice to me at first. And it was great. It was like we went back into the honeymoon period. But the problem was, we never really addressed most of the issues of the relationship. Sure, he knew that I had a big problem with physical abuse and the cheating. Those were huge, like, glaring issues, but I mean, there are a lot of other issues involved here. And we didn't quite address them properly. And even though he was really nice at first, he has just never been the kind of person that can handle stress or adversity well. And he would just get frustrated and just wasn't a pleasant person. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I now lived fairly far away, and so there was a lot of commuting. It wasn't entirely a comfortable situation. So we decided to go start over somewhere else. He didn't like my beautiful apartment because it was my beautiful apartment. So we decided to go elsewhere. And I was okay with it because as much as I loved my new place, I wasn't really like sold on the state. And so I thought, hey, this could be a great opportunity to do something different and start over fresh. But in the process of going and moving, his old true colors came back out. I remember this one time there was this kind of issue with a hotel that we were staying at with a charge. Me being, irrational, calm person, saw it on my bank statement and I was like, oh, guess I'm going to have to talk to the front desk person about it. He, being an irrational human being, flips out. And so we're in a car and he screams at me for 20 minutes, calling me stupid and dumb and irresponsible and terrible human being and just going hard. And I have PTSD. I still have PTSD. I can't deal with yelling around me. I can't deal with it, and I am trapped in a car with someone screaming at me over something that's, easily fixable. Not okay. Not okay. And I try to talk to him about it and say, hey, I don't like it when you do that. That's not appropriate for you to take out your frustrations on me, and it brings back a lot of bad memories. He was really dismissive. He was like, oh, I was just, I was upset. I was in a bad mood. Like, sorry, it was, whatever. I was like, it's not really addressing the issue. And during the whole move, he was just grumpy and he would not handle it well. And I would try to talk to him about it and he was dismissive. And when we got to the new place, he was supposed to get a job and he kept putting it off and putting it off. I was like, that's not okay. And he would go out and hang out, and he was hardcore regressing back into that same person. And so remember, I had left him March 2015. March 2016 rolls around and I realize I am with the same person that I had left in such a badass dramatic fashion a year before, and I was furious with myself. I could not believe it. I was like, I am so dumb. I am so dumb. But fortunately, starting that previous summer, I began filming a lot of porn videos, and I had built up my porn business, and I loved it, and I was doing well, and I was finally in a position where I was confident. I was feeling good. So starting around March 2016, I kept attempting to have a conversation with him that I wanted a divorce, but it's a difficult conversation to have because he would threaten to kill himself, and I would kind of back out, and I wasn't really able to do it. But June 9th, 2016, that evening, I was like, I'm doing it. Tonight's the night. This is getting done. So we're sitting on the sofa. He's on one side. I'm on the other side. I have my phone. I have the notes app open. And I'm just writing to myself. I'm like, you got this. You are strong. You are independent. You can stand alone on your own. I believe in you. Sammy loves you. Rocky loves you. I love you. You got this, girl. Go, go, go. And so I just, all of a sudden, I say, hey, can I talk to you about something? He's like, what is it? And I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, you got this, you got this, you got this. I take a deep breath. I'm like, this isn't working out for me. I want a divorce. I'm looking at my phone. Good, good, good. You're doing well. You're doing well. I love you. You got this. Because I didn't have a support system, so I had to be my own hype team and support system. And he's just like super surprised by it, although it really shouldn't be that surprising because we had kind of been having this conversation on and off for the past 3 months. And he doesn't like it. He's not super receptive to it. He's very upset. He's, threatens to commit suicide, and, it's just going, but I have my phone, and I'm looking at that notes app, and I'm like, ignore the bullshit. You got this. Stay strong, girl. I believe in you. And that got me through it, and I stayed firm in my resolve, and that's how I told him. The problem, he told me, he was like, I need you to let me kind of stay here and sleep on the sofa, help me out for the next 2 months so I can get on my feet, because he never got a job. We moved in November of 2015. It was now June of 2016. Dude's unemployed, but whatever. So I don't really want to help him out, but the confusing thing I think for other people is that they make assumptions that you like the other person to be dependent on you, or you like having them around, or you still care about them, but in reality, you don't want to be murdered. And so you don't want to antagonize the other person. So you just got to be kind of like really nice and really calm and helpful, yet firm in your resolve, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people think like, well, why wouldn't you call the police and get a restraining order? And it's like, well, restraining orders, they're a pretty piece of paper, but it doesn't really stop someone from coming up to you on the street and killing you. He hadn't been physically violent towards me for a long time, so I really never felt like there was anything that would allow him to be arrested and put in prison. So why antagonize him? Why make things worse? Because when you're dealing with someone that's so unpredictable, anything's possible. So I just had to be very calm, very nice, very patient. He put me through hell that summer, and it was miserable, and I was very depressed and upset, but I knew I could do it. I knew I could get out of it. And I did. I got him out of my apartment, got that divorce finalized, tried to stay in the same area, didn't work out, moved away, and I'm free. I'm free. But really, I just feel so grateful. I am so fortunate that I had the ability to leave, to get away, to be able to start over on my own, because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And so that's why it's really essential for people to have a support system, which is tough when you're isolated. So I just urge people to contact women's shelters, a support group. You know, you gotta find something and it'll help you, I promise. And I still, even after I left, I had a tough time after we first got divorced, and I will probably talk about that. I will talk about it in the future. It was really tough, and I had to make new friends. Like, I had to kind of figure things out and make a support system for myself, and that was really instrumental in helping me kind of get to a better place in life. But I was able to do it. I know if you are in a similar situation, you can do it. I truly believe that. I hope that this series was informative or interesting. I hope it can foster further discussion about this subject. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. I would like to make additional videos talking specifically about red flags, talking specifically about steps you can take if you need to leave a similar situation, and also talking about what you could potentially do to help someone you suspect is in an abusive relationship. And let me know below if you have any other ideas that you would like to go into further depth with. But that's my story. That's the end of it. It's been a wild ride, huh? It really has. But, at the end of the day, I can't regret anything. It's tough to remember the story, but I have such an awesome life now that I really can't be too upset about it. And I feel fortunate to talk about it and to be able to share it and maybe help other people. So anyway, that's the end. Please thumbs up, subscribe, give me some comments, do whatever, and I will catch you guys for the next video.